Hey, Daniel Cohen, how are you doing, my brother? How are you doing, my brother from another mother? I haven't heard from you in a while.
I haven't spoken to you in a while, and of course I'm doing well because I'm talking to my friend Egberto Willies, and I'm recovering from COVID, my friend. Everybody mask up out there. This variant is no joke.
Oh, so when did you get COVID?
About a week and a half ago or so. It's those first few days are a little bit rough, but I gotta say, I'm grateful for the medical community and all the progress that they've made in all of this over the last few years, and I'm grateful that we all had the opportunity to get vaxxed because there's very clear discrepancy in numbers when it comes to per capita problems related to COVID-19, and I'm a fortunate person. I'm fortunate to live in a world where I have access to that kind of medicine. As messed up as a healthcare system is, I still can feel gratitude about my own personal circumstances and being able to deal with it. But I'm doing great. That's not what I called in to talk to you a little bit about, but I
Well,
did
wait,
want to
before I know
just
you brought
give
up
a
COVID,
shout
but
out there. So.
I want you to talk about what you want to talk about. But I am a bit, this is now for personal reasons. How did you solve your COVID? By the way, you're all vaxxed up with all the boosters, right?
I am, yes, and Paxlovid now as well is available or was available to me, and that was
Oh, so
very
you
lucky.
did
So.
do. That was my next question. If you got the Paxlovid and all that good stuff, and you said you just had 3 bad days.
I did. I had three bad days, but I'll tell you, there's lingering effects of fatigue, and I'm hearing this. This is, of course, anecdotal, and we'll never know until the data piles up. But lately, what I've heard, at least from folks who are vaxxed, is usually a few bad days, and then some amount of fatigue for 1 to say 3 weeks, from what I've heard. But we'll
Okay.
we'll see. I mean, I don't. Again, we got to wait for the data to roll in before we really know.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're doing fine, my brother. I'm glad you're doing fine, and I'm going to have to talk to my wife about masking up with because she does the bus driving thing, so she got to do that. But anyway, talk to me. What's going on?
Well, I just wanted to put it on the radar of people in case they're not paying attention. I think the most undercovered story maybe in the whole country right now is still right here in Harris County because there are court cases that are moving through the system right now in an attempt to overthrow our elections from 2022. In particular, there are several judicial races that are currently being litigated. Again, as well as the potential for the county judge race
Right.
to either get overturned or for the election to be rerun right now. And I think it's a shame. There was discussion in the comments earlier. I saw people just with the tired old talking point about what is or is not a democracy, as if there's any country on the face of the planet that is taking votes as a collective nation as to what people should eat for dinner or something like that. Every single democracy in the world is a representative democracy and is therefore, by extension, a constitutional republic. It just seems to me that our right to vote in Harris County or there's at least an attempt to squelch it from the Texas state government. A government the size of France wants to twist the arm of a city of 4 million people or a county of 4 million people and force us to accept people who are not elected here, to ram these people down our throats. And I think it's a shame. I think that it's very obvious that there is an outright assault on the right of people to choose their own elected officials, which is what democracy truly is. And I wish that there was more news about it, to tell you the truth.
Well, look, I appreciate that you are forcing me to carry this by within your voice. What's occurring here in Harris County? So this is going to be replayed, and replayed. So people are going to hear this now. In addition to that race, in addition to what they're doing with these races, there are other issues here in Harris County, or specifically the city of Houston. Food not bombs just won in court because the officers didn't show up, and our city is having the nerve to refile on all these people that were ticketed as they're feeding the hungry in this country, in this city, as opposed to doing the right thing. So it's great that you came on here and reminded us that we need to cover all politics, including local politics, folks. Daniel J. Cohen is the president of Indivisible Houston, an organization that continues to do great work out here in Houston. How's that going, or what are your plans for this next election cycle? What are we doing to ensure that the progressive base is mobilized to bring more progressives both in the primaries and in the actual election?
Well, getting the word out here about, what I would say 2 words: home rule. So for
Right.
years, we've had folks who have told us that local government and the right of individuals should supersede super governments who put their thumbs on them. And then we turn around and what's going on in our own hometown? Well, the state of Texas has not only taken over schools in one of the largest school districts in the country, but has turned the libraries into prisons, has installed uncertified teachers, has begun to defund key programs inside of our communities, has begun to charterize and privatize those institutions, and perhaps worst of all, installed a board of managers that includes not only lobbyists from real estate, from standardized test industry, the standardized test industry, but also managed to put someone on that board of managers who was actually defeated by one of the previous trustees who she replaced. Now, if that's not overturning democracy and overturning the will of the people with a super government, I don't know what is. But maybe even worse than that, we can't reach any of these people because they've left social media. They don't show up and answer in meetings. And the installed czar VC superintendent who has been selected, handpicked by Greg Abbott's flunky over at the TEA to run HISD, stretches out his speeches and refuses to answer more than a handful of questions at town halls. So there's absolutely no representation for people here in the local community. Plus, at the legislature, they've overruled the rights and opportunities for us to regulate and self-regulate anything at the local level. So we've had this story that you might have heard about whether or not cities can implement breaks for construction workers
Yes,
so that
it's
they
a
can get
shame.
water in the
Yes.
heat of the day. It's been overturned by the state of Texas. So we don't have the right to guarantee those breaks. Instead, we have whatever the bare minimum of state Texas law guarantees. And of course, the bare minimum guaranteed by state Texas law is anti-worker and anti-representation of the masses because the state legislature is run by Greg Abbott, essentially. So Houston doesn't get any of the things that it cares about. We don't have the right to rule anything. They used to say, look, you do what you want in Houston, but this is the state of Texas and we'll do what we do here. And you can live in Houston and everybody else can live anywhere else in the state that they want. Now their message is, look, if you don't like it in Houston, you can move out of the state. Little by little, they're going to do everything that they can to essentially just push us off into the Gulf of Mexico if they had their way. So we're not here to stay. So that's the main issue. That's really what we're focusing on, is that Houstonians have the right to home rule. We're not going to be pushed around by Greg Abbott. We're not going to be pushed around by our thuggish criminal attorney general. We're not going to be pushed around by Dan Patrick and his hate-filled radio station over on I-10. And we're not putting up with this. So that's what we're focused on now. But hey, for anybody that's curious about whether or not the school libraries have been turned into prisons, I got 2 words for you. Google it. Because you can find it and you will find it. It's also worth noting that the superintendent has no idea what librarians do in public schools.
He's not even certified.
He doesn't have the foggiest clue. He's not even certified. He's not qualified for his own job. I guarantee the man hasn't read a book in years. So we've got people who are anti-book running education at this point in our own city. And if they want to come down here and run things, and Greg Abbott is okay with that, but people here are not okay with that, and they're not going to put up with it. So it's going to be pushback in the city of Houston, and if that's you'll see it. You'll see it not just at the ballot box, but you will see eventually disruption if this continues. You can't just push people around and take away their rights.
I think, and that's why it's great. I'm glad that you chimed in today. A lot of Houstonians need to hear about what's going on in our school system, what's going on in the takeover, the attempted takeover of Harris County. I was very upset that our politicians, look, I love the progressive politicians that we have out there in Austin, but I wanted them to come to Houston and force the people in Houston, even as we know we didn't have the numbers in the state legislature, to come out on the streets, to come and say, no, we don't accept it. You may pass the laws because we're gerrymandered, but we won't accept this. And going forward, we'll make sure that you're not reelected. And I think a lot of that work has to be done by Indivisible Houston and many of the other organizations in town to make sure that these guys are completely and entirely voted out in the next election. If what Ohio shows us is that we can build coalitions, including coalitions with purported Republicans, conservatives, etc., that in effect understand that what these guys are doing is more than just trying to move us into a conservative direction, but actually trying to move us into a plutocratic direction. As you stated with the board in the school board that got taken over, and the administration, the school district that got taken over, what is occurring right now is a plutocratic control of our school district. They want to not only they want to privatize it, they want to make sure they can control the curriculum. They want to turn it into a cash cow for private companies, and in doing so, they have brought in a whole lot of people that know very little about education. And you forcing us to point that out, Senor Cohen, President of Indivisible Houston. It's so important that you've done that for us. I want to thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Alberto. Thanks for being a member of the Free and Independent Press.
Absolutely. So anyway, give a little plug for the organization, please.
Sure. Indivisible Houston is a group of thousands of democracy advocates across Houston and Harris County and stand up on local issues, particularly, as I mentioned before, focused on making sure that home rule is protected here in Harris County. We've seen the disgusting lies that have come out from right-wing groups, particularly well-funded right-wing groups who often grab their funding from West Texas billionaires as opposed to local Houstonians, surrounding everything from our elections to our schools. And we're not here to stand for it. We're here to stand for individual rights for Houstonians. I'm here to stand up for the social safety net that will continue to keep our city strong moving forward. If you want to learn more information, go to indivisiblehouston.org. That's indivisible like one nation, indivisible Houston, like the fourth largest city in the United States and the beautiful city that we live in, .org.
Thank you so kindly for calling in, Daniel. It's always a pleasure and an honor to speak to you, brother. You take care, all right?
You too, brother. Thank you.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.